Alright, draft science video. It's comments, I guess. It's been a while and blah blah blah. Could do the split screen thing, but I don't really see there's much point in it, and I might want to do some drawing, so the hell with that. Yeah, we'll just do this. Yeah, just annoying person after annoying person in some respects. So what do I want to premise this with? Again, my argument that I'm making is they keep using this stuff and saying nail in the coffin, nail in the coffin. We figured it all out. We got all the answers, and this is rock solid. This evidence is rock solid. My argument is the evidence isn't conclusive at all. And the fact is that there are still viable, better explanations, better models. And by doing all this nail in the coffin stuff, they're just closing their own minds to what I'm going to argue is the difference between some kind of God theory of creation and evolution. They're really missing the forest through their nail in the coffin trees. And it's kind of tragic for this to be the attitude of people who call themselves scientists and think that they have this great unbiased reasoning capacity, when clearly they're just fans. I mean, they're just you know, Yankee fans throwing bottles you know, at the enemy players. So yeah, it's all such a pile of crap. All right, Gary, do you believe or deny this? So another one of these idiotic questions that the answer is in my videos, but go ahead, imply that I haven't made it clear. You know, even though I've made it clear, like redundantly over and over said it. To counteract the general relativity effects on orbit, they slow down the ticking frequency of the atomic clock. So let's understand they're actually having to slow the clocks down. So the clocks aren't running slower on the satellites, they're running too fast. So again, that's one of the common misperceptions, you know, that the things up there are going faster than we are because they have a miles per hour kind of sticker placed on them, and we're actually the ones doing more time dilating. We're the ones that are you know, again, slow down their clocks. We're the ones with the slower clock, which means we're the ones moving faster. Anyway, so once they were in the proper order stations, their clocks would appear to tick at the correct rate as compared to the reference atomic clocks on the GPS ground stations. So yes, all you're talking about is that they synchronize them because there's a difference. So yes, the ones in space run differently, and my argument is, of course I believe in that. I've made the argument over and over again, this dancing analogy. If you're dancing and I tell you to move stage left, you're going to dance slower because you're doing something else while you're dancing. So yes, I'm providing a different explanation for why the clocks work differently and I'm associating it maybe proportionally to velocity. That velocity causes the effect. That's my argument. And the effect is a material effect on the thing moving at velocity. It changes. Time doesn't change, the thing changes. That's why it tells time differently. Not because time has changed where it is, it's because it has changed because it's moving fast. Now you don't understand, I'm making a counter argument as to the cause of the effect. I'm not denying the effect, I'm saying something else might be causing it than what you think, which is the time got warped, and it's telling good time, it's just in warptopia, and in warptopia the time is different. I'm saying no. No, that's not what's happening. What's happening is when you're moving faster, you don't do the shit you were doing before as well, because you have to spend time moving. It's like you don't eat dinner as well inside the car or something. You know, when you're doing something else, you're driving and you're on your cell phone. Yeah, you don't do either one as well, because you're multitasking. And when you have velocity, you're starting to multitask. Maybe you'll understand that rhetoric. Can you understand that? So it's a counter theory. Instead of the fact that, hey, warping is space is bending in a loop-de-doo around you and you're in loop-de-doo, I'm saying you're multitasking. Cunt. And so he goes on to quote the ground said further, each GPS receiver is built into the microcomputer, which also has a timing cycle, no doubt. In addition to performing calculations of position using 3D triangulation, will also compute any additional special relativity timing calculations required. Any additional ones unnamed and undescribed. Yeah, that sounds like a Wikipedia sentence. The undescribed, unassociated, undefined, associated relativity effects that just may walk by. There might be a dinosaur that goes by and, causes a relativity bounce or something. I would think they would already know what those effects would be. They wouldn't have to just say, and any additional effects that may be, conditional to the circumstance. All right, so look, again, I'm not contesting the relationship between velocity and clock misfunction. That's what it is. And that the misfunction might have a linear scale to it, that there might actually be quite proportional. But beyond that, I'm saying, let's wait for the right test. So the right test is somebody's going to have to spend the money to actually put a few different kinds of atomic clock in the same satellite, right? Clocks that derive their timing from different crystals breaking down, different different mechanisms that have built into them a solid routine that there's nothing that actually tells time. You understand that, right? There's only things that have very durable cycles at very high rates of precision. And so, yes, the radioactive decay is very consistent to like 0.00001 gigahertz or whatever the thing would be. It's a huge reliability to a hugely fine standard. So those kinds of clocks are really good for this kind of test because they count a lot. There's a lot of seconds in their, a lot of digits on their clock. A lot of little stuff. They take a magnifying glass and go finer and finer. So yeah, you need fine. Look, we could take a Seiko watch and a Timex watch and a lot of different varieties of watches and put them in a satellite. But yeah, it won't do us any good because they're only doing 1/10 or 100th of a second. And you need something that can do 10,000ths of a second or 1/100th of a second or 1/1,000,000th of a second. So you need really fine clocks. But I would just argue that would be a good test. Find different materials that clocks can be made out of that are creating the initiator, the beep 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 thing, the signal, and then put them all in one satellite, run it for a couple of weeks up in space there, and put a video camera in there and just see if the clocks all dilate exactly the same. That might tell you something. But it still wouldn't fundamentally say anything to me, because I would still argue that all you're demonstrating is there's a correlation between velocity and atomic function. You haven't created any correlation between the metabolism of a human being. Not even close. I'll digest my food slower. I'll blah blah blah. No, there's no correlation between any of those more complex functions. All you've shown is a correlation between the crudest mechanical functions of atomic structure. And of course it's the atoms that are being irritated by the velocity. They're the things being fucked by it. But by my theory. So yeah, so I don't really have much else to say on this subject. You say it's there's no reason for any further discussion. It's bent space. It can only be bent space. There's no other possible explanation for why the clocks change when you give them velocity. No other explanation possible. Has to be bent space. And space is tied to, space-time. Time is changed, and there's an envelope of time change that the thing is now sitting in, and now anything that happens will all be at exactly the same broken time. So the clocks are actually working correctly. They're just telling time in the time warp. All right. And no other explanation is possible. Well, my argument to you is your evidence is shit weak, and I think it's possible to have a lot of different explanations. And I personally believe I have the explanation. So, fuck you. Alright, mindless marbles. Half the radius. So just about where they're putting this bent light, the gravity is only 4 times less the surface, and okay. So he's quoting me. So let's understand. So I went, I'll just say before I read this, I went to these links, and they're basically making my point for me. And the funniest part, well, I won't say this is the funniest part, but let's go deal with the first part I didn't even think of, is that, see, these people argue, one guy's arguing, well, the amount of crap the sun's spewing at that distance is 30 times thinner than the atmosphere of the Earth, or whatever. You know, like it's some kind of terribly thin crap. And then and then another guy in another paper kind of just points out, yeah, but there's only about 468 billion times more of it that the light has to go through, right? The sun is huge, you know, the Earth's atmosphere, a little 3-mile thing. Yeah, and we see how much the light gets fucked up by that. So yeah, let's make the atmosphere, let's say even 1,000 times thinner, but you have to go through 1 billion times more of it. That's a big problem. So anyway, but the other thing is, there's always smart asses. This stack exchange thing just pisses me off. Because, you know, I posted a perfectly reasonable comment regarding my unification theory, and they deleted it. They closed. They wouldn't even let me discuss it. So they're obviously fascist. All right. So anyway, so one of the smart asses there was you know, making these counter arguments about it, and this, you know, the idea of the lens being made out of clutter, and he was really arguing blah blah blah. But he was talking about the gravitational lens again, using this stupid convex lens. There's no convex lens. I mean, you know, when you're, I mean, I didn't think of it before, but I mean, the Edinburgh experiment is fail right from the beginning. It can't work. You won't see the star as a round thing. So I mean, if they say, you know, the photographic plate's supposed to have the little round blob of the star, well, it shouldn't be a little round blob, because this is the fucking lens it's looking through. It's not looking through a lens that will properly image anything. It's going to fuck the image up so fucking bad. It's going to be the most. It's going to be like 2 half circles going the wrong way. You can't possibly lens it consistent with its actual shape, because the lens is going the wrong way. For fuck's sake. It has to be skewed, is what I'm saying. It has to be raindropped. There has to be some evidence of the artifact, of the fact that your lens is fucking creepily shaped. And I haven't seen anybody account for that in any of these conversations. They just keep talking like, you know, they keep just making regular lenses. You can't do it that way. The lens has to fit the gravity. Alright, anyway. So this is his thing. Do you think the people just sit there on their asses and make guesses all the time like you? Well, again, I didn't just make guesses. What I did is I watched all of the lectures at MIT. So that's like 40 lectures in all the 800 series. So that's 120 over an hour, well, hour and whatever, 15, 20 minutes lectures. The Yale lectures and some of the Stanford ones. And I spent 5 years now, at whatever it's been, thinking about this. And you're going to make ridicule-y statements like I somehow haven't earned having an opinion. And I'm going to say, fuck you. You're the one who hasn't shown your bona fides here. What's your fucking... What do you know about any of the details of any of these subjects, jackass? Fuck you, you fucking anonymous marble coward. Anyway, like you, I'm just saying there's fundamental mistakes. Okay, I'll bring it up again because it's just so glaring. The Huygens problem. All right, so they keep saying nail in the coffin, nail in the coffin, nail in the coffin, and to make single slit interference make any sense, they have to use Huygens. So does that mean that Huygens is now proven that's an absolute fact that Huygens is happening. It's not just some thing somebody thought up like bent space to solve a problem. You know, they came up with a model, Bugs Bunny with a sledgehammer, that's what knocked the Twin Towers down, you know, or whatever. They come up with a model that fits the circumstance, and so they say, okay, this is the model. But they make it up, and that's true. We know Huygens just made it up. We know he didn't have any evidence that any of this shit was happening. He just made up a theory of, well, maybe if the waves are waveletting, then that would give them a way of perpetuating in front of themselves, and then they could detect the world in front of them and then decide to go somewhere, and, well, maybe. It's like radar, but it's not, you know, photon-R. But anyway, it's made up. And you're saying it's an absolute fact now, right? So basically, okay, it's nail in the coffin, so it's an absolute fact, and so, but what's this? So we have this principle, okay, of Huygens, all right. So a single slit Huygens, but a double slit doesn't Huygens. So all a double slit is two single slits. So sometimes now, the theory is a photon comes towards these slits, somehow it chooses what slit to go through and says, I'll go through both. And then when it gets there, it knows, don't Huygens. No Huygensing allowed. Because if it Huygens, you know what's going to happen, right? You're going to get interference from these two waves and this wave. And the problem is going to be is, yeah, these two interference patterns, if this distance is exactly the wavelength of the light, these two patterns will overlap and the bars will be right on top of each other. But if you make this bar any other distance, they're going to spread. They're going to bleed. They're going to go all crookedy on you in a most horrible manner. So we know that isn't happening, because we know we can vary the length of the impediment in the middle, and the bars don't just go right across the whole screen. It doesn't become all bars. We know the bars end up being in the right places. The interference happens in the right places. It's all constructive interference with the Huygensy waves. So it only works with one single circumstance of the experiment if you Huygens it. And so that's okay with you. That to you is nail in the coffin proof, because I can make it work in one single circumstance. And again, you're ridiculing me. You're pointing your ridicule at the wrong place. And that's bad on you, asshole. Point it at your own preachers. Alright, so let's see. Well, it's kind of true, but there are actual precise calculations being made. And again, I'm saying you're claiming there's actual precise calculations being made based on right logic. And what I'm saying is there's precise calculations being made based on irrational nonsense. Huygens, dark matter, all kinds of invented catch-22 bullshit. And again, they haven't even... Are you precisely making precise calculations when you use calculations based on this lens rather than this lens? Do you think your calculations could possibly be called precise if you've picked the wrong lens to do your calculations on? Alright. These predictions are quantitative. I don't know why we worry about this quality thing, but whatever. They're predictions that are vague enough, okay, that they can get away with it. Again, the single slit, double slit math. Go show me the double slit math that actually duplicates the double slit pattern, which is a superposition of two patterns. So you go ahead and show me the math that's qualitative to the real circumstance. And even the time dilation math. You want to show me where the actual calculations were done and they knew exactly how much off the clock was going to be and they didn't have to fudge with it at all? There was absolutely not a tiniest bit of fudge. They didn't just go, hey, we're still 60 cycles off. And they just bumped it down a bit. You don't think any of that happened? I think that happens all the time. I think it's quite obvious. Like I said, they they do the double slit math, and what do? They go, well, we know where this bar is and where this bar is, but we're not going to bother even talking about those other bars because guess what? They get funky as shit. So yeah, they just do the math and say, look, we got it. You see that? Yeah, the band's going to be 6 centimeters across, and the next one's going to be 6 centimeters away, and blah blah blah. And then they just say, well, let's not go any further because we know these numbers are going to turn into shit. All right. So how can you just say, well, it's really weak and it won't work with the sun? Well, how can I say it is based on the very fact of what they're saying? Don't you? I'm explaining what aren't I telling you why? They never repeated the eclipse experiment. Then, on top of it, so they never did this one good. They don't have any good images of solar lensing. And then, like I said, and the offense is, the only reason why they're using the eclipse is because they didn't have a non-atmospherically blinded telescope. They had no telescope that could even look at the sun because, fuck it, there's too much sun. Too much light in the way from the atmosphere. And now they have the Hubble telescope, and where's the image? So, I mean, fuck you. You don't think that's weak? I think it's weak. That you know Einstein's math says it should be there, and the truth is it's not there. Considering that this has already been calculated, this argument doesn't work. Well, okay, you just keep promising me these fucking calculations. So again, it's just like, you know, Pirro's, this is the most proven mathematics in the history of mankind, blah, 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 blah. And I don't see the damn fucking proof. I just hear about the proof. And I just say every time I go look at one of these fucking experiments, every fucking single time, you can find a million assumptions built into the experiment. Oh, we'll just make a crystal that shoots photons without interfering with them. And we'll call that a two-slit. Assumptions. We'll just make a mirror and reflect the light. That doesn't slow it down any. Assumption. Fuck you. Alright. They're sending their whatever to Mars, blah, 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 coming back. Okay. The guy in this very video addresses this point of the atmosphere. He doesn't address it. Why? By mentioning it? Saying, well, there's atmosphere, blah, 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 but we don't worry about that because, you know, if the light was bouncing off atoms, it would only be a certain wavelength. Oh, well, the problem with that theory is it's not just atoms. It's little tiny pieces. Little tiny pieces of the sun end up all the way here at Earth and cause the northern lights. Isn't that the theory? What do you think those little pieces are? Radio waves? Might be. Anyway, this is more of this. And you happen to just go right by it. I'm not going right by it. I'm saying show me the experimental data. All right, show me what kind of signal you sent. Okay, well, it was a 4 million megawatt signal, and we got back whatever, so, 43 microwatts. And as I've pointed out, yeah, that might be inevitable. You send a bunch of energy, and then the energy comes back because, like I said, a little bit of it couldn't be diffracted, and it's diffracted in all kinds of directions. Like a light bulb, I might only see a few photons that are actually being diffracted. And how would I know the difference between them being diffracted and them being lensed? And I'm telling you, you don't know the difference. You can't say, oh, it's nail in the coffin evidence. No, it isn't. But do I have to go through every single one of these experiments and point out where the flaws are? When again, they can't accurately describe the simplest experiment in physics. 2 fucking slits and a light source. They can't accurately describe that experiment, and you're saying to me, trust them. No, I'm not going to do that. And I think the very fact that you assholes are trusting them is why science has stayed stupid. Is why you're living in a fantasy world where you start talking about things like multiverses and we're all living in 7 gazillion lives and 7 gazillion fucking universes and all this kind of crap. It's worse than religion. Alright. With the Cassini spacecraft, they have made specific corrections for the solar corona. Well, again, specific corrections based on what assumptions? This wrong lens? Did they have the right lens in place? Can I break their math just by saying, haha, you picked the wrong lens? So what if they have the right answer, everything's great, and then I demonstrate they have the wrong lens? Then what would you say? Huh? I'm just saying, will you put your reputation on one of these experiments? Just one of them. Pick one and say, I'm sure this is a good one. I'm sure this is really good evidence. And then if I demonstrate to be weak evidence, will you shut the fuck up forever? Because all I see you assholes doing is saying, I've got a million stupid fucking experiments for you to debunk. And yeah, I don't really have time to do that. So if you want to just keep saying you have hard evidence, when the fact is, all of this stuff, if you scratch at it a little fucking goddamn bit, you can see it's not what you call hard evidence. This is evidence that's so fucking tainted. I mean, if I was to make an OJ example, I mean, that evidence was so fucking pristine compared to this evidence. Anyway, this just takes so much time to actually talk about this, so here's the discussion involving this idea. Well, it takes time. Why? Because obviously Einstein's projection that it would be just so fucking obvious isn't true. And again, the fact that the Hubble can't even be bothered to go over there and take a look and watch the whole field of the universe pop out before it should from behind the sun. The Hubble telescope should go right in front of the sun, should be able to see everything just popping up. Hey, there's something that's supposed to be behind the sun. Every single second that should be happening. All right. I mean, we should have a video of it, for fuck's sake. Alright, holy crap, wake up. Albert made more than a few mistakes. I think I pointed out the really important ones. So you want to say he made more than a few. I'm saying, look, Albert Einstein, even if you think he made mistakes, it doesn't even matter, because they're the most clever mistakes in the history of mankind. Because the smartest people in the world have been snookered by this fucking perfect piece of crap he built. Alright, I mean, he shoves the idea, first he takes the idea of force and shoves it into some kind of bent shit. Says, look, it's bent. That's what's making it do it. That's all you need for an explanation. Alright, which is essentially almost like saying, don't worry about a god, it was Bugs Bunny that did it. Or the magic tree. I mean, it's an incredible that he got people to fall for that in the first place, and then he shoves time into it. And he gets people to buy this bullshit. So, I mean, you can hardly say he's an idiot. I mean, it's a brilliantly composed, beautiful blueberry pie made out of absolute dog shit. I mean, it's a brilliant construction, but yeah, it's a piece of shit. All right, anyone know how to get started understanding this kind of stuff? I'm quite lost. Well, you know, I mean, I've made a lot of videos. I think breaking this stuff down pretty simple. I mean, I was thinking I could make some more that are even simpler, I suppose. But I mean, I've kind of been over this. I mean, their theory is that space is bent, so you can kind of get that, right? There's a slope, and things fall down the slope, and that is the idea of stuff being accelerated by gravity. And the force of gravity, I've sort of explained, is just like a light bulb. The further away you get, the less light there is. That's the same relationship. Or your hand, right? Right, I move my hand here, and I go half the distance, and my hand is 4 times bigger here than it is here. See, look at it here. I can put 4 of these hands inside of this hand. You see? I don't see that that's hard. I mean, you should be getting some of this. All right, anyway. So let's see. It might depend on how old you are. Maybe start by borrowing a book. You know, again, classic physics, blah blah blah. I mean, really, there's a ton of lectures. Why don't you just say go look online? Because if you actually look, there's lots of science lectures. And if you just ignore, I mean, the math will kill you. So just skip over all the parts with the math, because you have to learn their math language, and figure out what lambda stands for, and thetas and nuis and buoys and Sankakdakas, and you know, they just keep doing all this hieroglyphics crap, and that'll just rot your brain. But if you just watch the experiments, then you'll get the idea, because you'll see, like, you know, you see the guy put a charge on a metal plate and then touch it to a balloon, and then he'll, you know, he can sit there and the balloon will hit his head and then bounce off and go back to the source, and then hit his head and go back to the source. You know, it'll go between two charged bodies and bounce back and forth or something. You see some kind of experiment like that, and you say, oh yeah, that's really interesting. The electrons are jumping from there, and then they get onto that, and then when the electrons are on there, they're attracted back to here, and then the electrons pop off, and then there's no electrons, so there's more electrons over there, so it goes back to where there's more. Oh yeah, and you'll get it. So it's like that, really. It's mechanical. It doesn't have to be... I mean, some parts of it, they have to get gnarly, but I'm just saying, I've cut everything out. I mean, I've cut all the... You don't even have to think about quarks, and you don't even have to think about all the crap. You don't need any of that shit to really know that this is just an idea. There's this force stuff, and then there's this matter stuff, and the matter stuff is pushed by the force stuff, and it also channels the force stuff. And so there's just force stuff that's basically just vibrating everything, and it vibrates in a direction when it has collected some of these little eddies. Well, I don't want to, you know, it does get a little complicated, but it's not that complicated. I don't know, sorry, you just sound kind of whiny. I mean, really. You want to learn how to do something, you have to learn how to do it. Yeah. You have to go stick your feet in it. Alright, it rubs the lotion on its skin, else it gets the hose again. You're a douchebag, and you know, I hope your cancer is as ugly as you are. I mean, the one I hope you get. Soon. I mean, my stupid douchebag, useless turds. I mean, it's just such an old joke, and again, who are you, Prince Charming? Who the fuck are you? At least I look like a celebrity. You look like shit. Stupid, dumpy shit. I don't know. From this view, you almost look like Alex Jones. I mean, micro penis much? Ugh, idiots. Alright. Spare your mind, guys. It's mostly interesting, but he's probably saying something here I find y'all find irritating. When you look how the Lorentz is derived, I can see potential bugs. For example, assumes parallel motion, perpendicular orientations. Velocities are positive in all directions for both characters in the system, and the distance of the matter comprised of bodies of different velocities are constant. Well, the point is that all of these transformations are really just taking the... Let's take the starting point and the end point and try to come up with some other factor that is affected by the event. And so, yeah, I mean, the fact that he would add a couple of factors to come up with some kind of, I'll tell you how much you're going to be time dilated. The bottom line, though, is really, if you really look at the end result, it looks like all he did was take this, okay, bend space, and all he did was go this. I mean, that's all it looks like to me. It doesn't look like much of a transformation. I mean, flipping the curve like this doesn't seem like much work. So I'm not going to give him any Nobel Prizes. I'll watch him say it then say he didn't say it. I'll watch him say it, then say he didn't say it. Well, I guess that's I mean, that's probably one of the Holiday things. I mean, when I say overtly right to his face, the electron is moved by the interaction. The arrow is inside the electron. The electron is impacted. Yeah, and he just... No, it's not. Your theory doesn't provide any mechanism for any kind of change happening. Nothing could ever possibly move. Nothing could ever possibly happen. Nothing could ever possibly be contained. The Holiday, say so. I've been fighting gravity since I was 2. We've come to a balance, but gravity will always come out on top. I don't know what a balance is when you're still fighting, so that doesn't sound like balance. Fighting doesn't sound like balance. Yeah, it sounds like losing by definition. Why is this mouse doing that? I'm scrolling down and the thing is going up. Anyway, this is getting a little tedious, but we'll just finish up since we started. Alright, John Reynolds. Whoever told you that you could do physics? You complain that all the comments critical to your... I mean, you know, you can, again, keep saying I don't have any experience in this, but I do. I worked in electronics. I worked in a machine shop. I've worked on mechanical devices my entire life. I did electronic circuit boards. I know what the little parts do and what they are. You know, I have a knowledge base of experience. And again, and to this unaccountable trolley comments from you fucking douchebags who put nothing on the line. You just claim you're an authority and you somehow do know how to do physics. And it's just grotesque. You're such a coward. Alright, you complain that all the comments critical to your crackpot ideas, so somehow you're qualified to call them that, are ignorant lay people using appeals to authority. I didn't even say they were ignorant lay people. Okay, what I'm saying is their arguments are laughably unresponsive. I mean, you show every single physics professor misdescribing in an experiment and they say, well, they're just being metaphorical for the public or some other crap, and then you point out, no, it's a physics lecture. They're teaching physics at the most expensive universities in the world. Well, you know, and there's no answer to it. They're teaching it wrong, and that somehow is okay. Anyway. But then when someone smarter than you and better educated than you challenges your ideas, well, again, who was that? Please, provide me the evidence of this better educated person. And I guess if you mean that better educated by the fact that they paid a university and did you know, smoke dope through the lectures, or else they have a degree in philosophy or something. What the fuck are you talking about? You turn into a giant whining PM slung little bitch. Well, whatever. No, I respond to people who are like you, insulting and provide nothing as evidence to defend yourselves. Pirro keeps talking about how he has seen the proof, he's seen the light, he knows it exists, and what does he keep posting? Propaganda. Every single thing he's ever posted, I have debunked. And he just keeps doing it because he's lazy and he really doesn't know the subject. By the way, appeals to authority are really only fallacious when the authority is false one. For example, the Catholic Church's false authority on morality. Well, again, that claim can only be built out of something called earned credibility. And so you're saying Einstein is not a false authority on physics. Well, the argument to be made here is that he kind of is. Because his whole claim to fame was a fucked up experiment. That's what made him famous. And his whole theory, okay, in my opinion, is fundamentally wrong. And it was fundamentally corrosive to the very physics in the end he was pissed off at. So, in a sense, you're saying Einstein's the authority that should be respected, and yet nobody's really respecting him. Because in a sense, everybody is misquoting him. They're using his name because he has cachet. So the gravitational wave people are saying, Einstein, we've proven Einstein. When Einstein first wouldn't accept their black hole theory, and second, he wouldn't have I don't think, agreed with their theory of gravitational waves being created in the manner they say they were created, by converting matter into bent space. I don't think Einstein ever theorized you could convert matter into bent space. So fuck you. I know more about this shit than you do. By the way, these theories you bash have been profoundly confirmed. So they're profoundly confirmed. It's not only nail in the coffin, it's profoundly confirmed. So they confirmed Huygens with the blah 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 blah. They confirmed the existence of actual bent time with the anyway, by epistemological evidence. Yes, that's how it's spelled, retard. Who the cares? What I'm saying is the evidence I have pointed out is wrong. It's not correct. The evidence is a lie. The two-slit experiment is a canard. It's a lie. They have no explanation for single-slit interference. They have to use Huygens. which you willfully ignore. I don't ignore it, I debunk it. You call yourself a realist, yet deny the principle of inductive epistemology. I don't even know what that means. I deny that you can just claim that, let's say, I deny the fact that you say, because there's a footprint in a rock, and then there's another footprint in a rock, I know for sure both those footprints were made on the same day. I deny that that's reasoning. I say that's a simple, stupid person making a big fucking mistake. Alright. Perhaps you have more in common with Nietzsche, yeah, whatever, than you realize. He, like you, saw himself as his own convictions as a better source of truth than objective universe. Well, again, how exactly? What objective fact am I denying? So again, one of these vague accusations that I'm denying a fact, when in fact I'm exposing the other people who are denying the facts. The people who deny that Huygens is not proof of wave theory, and that, if you use it in the double slit experiment, it doesn't work. If you use it in the single slit experiment, you've copped out. There's no way to get around it. It can't be true, because it doesn't work in both experiments. So you already know it can't be true. So you're still stuck explaining why photons change their direction in the single slit. And you don't have an explanation, fuckhead. Because there's no fucking reason why one photon sees one hole and it says, I'm going to split in two. Like you, his extruded facts in favor of intuition. Well, again, this isn't in favor of intuition in the sense that apparently all you people are perfectly comfortable with the idea of waves that don't spread, and they're waving in the nothing waves. The bent space is now waving. Everything waves. That's your intuition, apparently, because it doesn't make any sense to me. As if the word could be comprehensible without reference or to observable facts. Yes, misdescribed observed facts. That true can be known just by sitting in one's own head and thinking about it. Well, whatever, you pompous fuck. You unaccountable rock hiding behind trolley piece of wormy turd. You have no balls, no guts, no integrity. You backed up nothing. You made no argument. You posted to no link saying, here's my proof. Go ahead, show me a proof of something that prevents what I'm saying being true. Go ahead and prove to me it's not velocity that's changing the clocks. Go ahead and prove it and show me the proof link. And if I debunk it, you shut up forever. If the arrows in your field cannot affect each other, very good. All force can't affect a force, okay? It's not that complicated. Two light beams. I shoot the two lasers at each other. The light doesn't bounce off of each other. That's the simple principle. And it's true for every single force. All the stuff going the speed of light will not affect other stuff going the speed of light. And how did some of the arrows become trapped together to form electrons and protons? So it's back to Hoffliday again. Holy fucking shit. It's a Big Bang thing, asshole. They're durable things, electrons and protons, okay? People will tell you they're pretty durable. They don't just spontaneously explode and spontaneously arise or do any of that stuff. They're old things. They might be really, really, really preposterously old things, okay? There might be electrons inside of you that are 18 billion years old. So why are you asking a stupid question? The electrons exist, okay? Whether they were pushed together, it's polarization smashed together, and it can't unsmash, okay? It's like barbs on a fish hook. You know, once they get smushed into each other, they can't unhook, okay? It's a Chinese torture, finger torture. Once the polarization hits another piece of polarization and something else pushes on it at just the right time, whoops, I accidentally fucked you, bitch. Yeah, sorry, I didn't rape you. It was an accident. That guy pushed me and, we're married. Yeah, that's how. Fuckhead! I just can't believe these retards. So go ahead. please, I hope on all the Degrassi Tyson videos and every other person who ever says the word electron or proton, go to any one of the other science channels, you know, Mr. Physics F4, W4 Physics, Physics Girl. Go ask the physics fucking girl where they came from. Do you type this kind of crap on anybody else's videos, you fucking cunt? Alright, cosmology actually uses gravitational lensing. Uses it like, look at that blob. What do you think that is? That's a galaxy. It's the biggest galaxy in the universe, and it's being lensed by that thing over there. And we've now discovered the biggest galaxy in the universe. That's how they use it. They see something, and then they say, can we explain that with some sort of bending of the light thing? Because that's a really cool way to explain stuff. They don't go out and say, let's deliberately move a lens in front of something and then look at it. That doesn't happen, asshole. Alright. Oh, because it contradicts your theory of everything. S. Yeah, fuck you. Again, I'm not even... It doesn't even contradict my theory. This is the whole fucking joke of this thing. I'm saying if you want to make a special exception, so there's one force in the universe, the photon forces, you know, the stuff at a frequency that somehow is bent. So magnetism isn't bent, radiation isn't, all kinds of things aren't bent, but this one force, this one form, gravity isn't bent. You know, I can't bend gravity with a magnet, can't do any of that kind of shit, but no, this light gets bent by gravity because it has some sort of magical matter mass. Alright, so what else do I want to say about that? Yeah, my theory is not dependent. There's nothing. I'm just using this as another example of how lame physics is. Do you think my theory is dependent on dark matter existing or not existing? Of course it isn't. It doesn't give a fuck. This isn't relevant to anything important. Oh, a magical new form of matter, it does actually exist. Because there's no evidence it's doing anything else in the known universe, so why should I give a shit? You think if they found another quark, I could give a damn? That it somehow changes my math? Or my relationship math? The simple force reactions inside of atoms, which have been as dependable as they can be for millions of years, and we kind of know what they do. We know what steel is, and we know what glass does, and we know what all kinds of different things do, and we know what kind of atoms the stuff's made out of by how it burns, and we have lots of evidence of lots of stuff. You think any of that's going to be changed by any of that crap? No. So my theory is not dependent on anything to do with this stupid lensing shit. I'm just pointing out how it's another gross inconsistency with what you might describe as principle. That everything moving the speed of light doesn't get interfered. Nothing else interferes with force, never interferes with force except in this one stupid circumstance. Because Einstein says so. Because Einstein needed it to happen. So he could bend time. And that's all it is. Bend light, you've bent time. That's the theory. And it's stupid. Alright. It's a diffractive reflective effect. I think he's talking about some of those lensing images, I'm not sure. The reflective math provides accurate chromatic results. Where is this intense gravity around the distant outskirts of these galaxies? So he's asking, I think, the question. But again, the lens is wrong. So even if you put gravity out there, you still have to explain how the wrong lens makes it work. Even if you put gravity out there, you have to explain how it's smeared just perfectly evenly. You know, when they use their dark matter fudge, how come it's spread? They get to spread it perfectly evenly. No lumps in the fudge. All right, new gravity. It's hip. It's cool. It's black. This is not your grandfather's gravity. Right? That's funny, kind of. But seriously, there might be gravitational lensing, but why does gravity only pull on the light perpendicularly, and why, when it travels straight at straight form? I don't even know what that means, but obviously it seems kind of silly to say something can be affected by a force in only one dimension. So yeah, it seems kind of, well, you can't make it go faster and you can't make it go slower, but all you can do is push it side to side. Yeah, that's going to require a little bit of bizarre physics to explain. But they'll never have to explain because no asshole is going to ever ask the question. Could they use binary stars to get better lenses if it is possible to lens gravity in space? Well, the better candidate is those dwarfy thing, the not very bright stars. But again, they're all too far away, so you're not going to be able to get enough. There's not enough lens. The lens is too small. Also, is the pattern that can... I mean, I really think... I mean, even though look, there's no planets that have big gravity, so we're like almost the heaviest gravity of all the planets. So, but you might be able to use something like, I think Neptune is something like a little tiny bit heavier gravity than we have. And it's not terrible gravity, right? 10 meters per second isn't outrageously thin. And so if you're saying that, like, you know, where they had to lens at any practical way for Einstein's theory, they couldn't possibly use the surface of the sun because that, you know, at the 70 meters. So let's just say they have to be a little bit reasonable and say they have to go a little ways away from there. And so you're talking about maybe, you know, 40 meters per second. And so, yeah, 1/4 of that, that means you have 1/4 of the effect. So it still seems reasonable that with our very high precision everything, that you really should see a little glimmer of lensing on one of those really dark, you know, planets. Well, anyway, I'm just theorizing that maybe. I mean, but yeah, I don't. I'm still not even. Well, look, I know I'm certain that they're not going to be able to do it because you can't do it. So why am I even trying to make it work when it just, you can't do it. You can't bend light. Using a force like that was what's called magnetism. In the larger image, the lens they call it looks like dolphin rings could be a type of energy ring like that. I don't even know what that means. Not hard to make smokers do that. They have a toy. I don't even know what any of that means, but yeah, fuck it. Oh, Piro. Lying. It's cuntiest piece of crap on earth. The light pointing forward would be a different relative speed to me. Alright. So this now, so in this video he was explicit. I mean, it was an explicit analogy. I'm saying, look, if you're moving half the speed of light and you point a flashlight forward and you turn it on, what happens? And his answer was, the light leaves me at the speed of light. That was his answer. And my argument was, it can't do that because you're moving half the speed of light, so it can't possibly move away from you at the speed of light because you're moving half the speed of light in the same direction. It's not possible. If a guy's running 50 miles an hour and I run 25 miles an hour, he can't look like he's still going 50 miles an hour to me. To me, then from the light going backward. Now, I don't even know what that is. So it's a simple, the light going backward from a flashlight pointed forward. Okay, fine. That's just idiotic. The opposite direction of the ship. That's the different speed I was talking about. Genie. I don't know what that means. No, it was a simple argument being made. So let's forget the light going forward. Explain the light going across the ship. I still want you to explain how, as the observer in the ship, it would ever be possible for the light to go from one side, if I'm going half the speed of light, for the light to go from one side of the ship straight across to the other side of the ship. I mark the two spots on the ship before I take off, right across from each other. And I'm going to shoot light now that I'm going half the speed of light. Now I'm going to shoot light across. Now you tell me how even me sitting inside the ship, how I'm going to see the light hit the mark I put on the wall. Because I'm not ever going to see that. Alright. There's no room for mystery and magic in the universe. Gary's theory removes magic and turns the universe into a smoothly functioning machine. Yes, very good. Kind of like the flat earth theory does. So again, he's comparing it to a flat earth theory. So I've gone to all this meticulous detail of going through all these different experiments, all the Maxwell stuff, all this stuff on electricity, all these things, all this detail to figure out what the experiments are, what I have to account for, all of this crap, and he's going to compare it to flat earth theory. What a cunt. Anyway, problem. As with the flat earth theory, Gary isn't taking into account the data. So again, he keeps making this accusation that he has some data that is decisively anti my theory. Yet he has no such data. It doesn't exist. He won't provide it. He says, I have it, but he won't show it. Also, don't know that Einstein did in fact say light would travel light speed relative to any observer. So he knows that what Galileo knew, but he doesn't know what Einstein knows. So he can tell me for sure that Galileo knew there was no such thing as, 0 miles an hour. Yeah, that doesn't exist. There's no such thing. You have to compare yourself to somebody moving to know you're also moving. Because everybody's moving. Because there's no such thing as not moving. Alright. You just compared Gary's theories of flat earth. You're not trying to insult him. Yeah. You just implied the theory of mainstream physics is magic compared to Gary's. Where insults off the table. So again, he says Huygens isn't magic. Heisenberg isn't magic, even though none of this stuff's ever been proven. The idea of a time envelope that I fly into when I get velocity, I sink into the bent space and I'm now in a time tunnel wave. Yeah. No, that's not at all magical. Fuck. Let's see. One of Gary's chief and valid complaints is that mainstream physics leaves the door open to things like many worlds. Oh, let's not even get into that. Yes. No, I didn't even think about that as being incredibly magical nonsense. Alright, Gary's theory yanks the space-time tablecloth off the table, but amazingly leaves, yes, upright. Except for the fact that all he does in his quest against special relativity. So again, the subject is general relativity. The subject is velocity, not acceleration. So get it wrong. Is just give non-arguments. Oh yeah, okay. It's a non-argument to say velocity is something matter possesses. It's force inside of the matter, and that's why when you give something velocity, it can impose force on something. It's because it actually possesses force. LOL. I can see my grandfather die and be born. Oh, that's a different guy. Let's see. I can see my grandfather die and be born. Now do I shine my flashlight at the speed of light to make the light move away? Question mark. I don't know what that is. I don't know if he's quoting me. Oh, look at all this crap. Oh, geez. Mindless. He calls himself Mindless Marbles, and then he sits there and pretends he knows something. Alright, in this very video at .55150, Gary says that if you are moving to the right and you shine a light up, when did I say that? It would just leave you and go straight up. Yes, that's what I said. Light always goes where it's going, and it doesn't give a fuck about your frame shit. This lack of relativity would be a clear violation of Maxwell's equation. No, it wouldn't, you liar. Where does Maxwell's equation do anything at velocity? That's the silliest fucking thing ever said. Maxwell's equations have nothing to do with moving fields. Gee, you're an asshole. I mean, it's vibrating fields, not moving fields, which is a classical theory. So you're just lying about that. And two, I mean, when did Maxwell ever, where in any of Maxwell's equation is there any half the speed of light factor? I'm telling you, Maxwell would know for sure that if you had a magnet and you moved it the speed of light, or half the speed of light, that the magnetism would be diluted over the entire path that you're traveling, and that your magnetism would diminish to nothing because you will spread it over that entire field. And it's like a light bulb. If I have a light bulb and I move a light bulb half the speed of light, how much light is somebody going to see? Because all the photons are being diluted over that entire surface, you jackass. And that's Maxwell, you dumb fuck. Maxwell knew that you can't spread a force over a surface and the force just stays the same strength. No, the thinner you spread it, the thinner the force, jackass. Okay, jeez, dumbass. Maxwell's equations. And we would have already noticed this if it were true. Well, again, so your premise that it violates Maxwell, I think, is a preposterous lie. That we can trace laser to ridiculous accuracies. How does that have anything to do with a traveling laser? Oh, God. Wikipedia, I'll have to look at this, but it'll have nothing to do with moving a laser half the speed of light, I'm sure. And Mendel makes the point that if people screw up the single slit pattern, the simplest pattern you can imagine, then they definitely had to screw up something else. I didn't say that. I didn't say they definitely had to. I'm saying that the obvious implication is if you can't trust them with something like fucking building blocks to play by the rules, then yeah, if they're playing some other game, you can figure they're cheating there too. I mean, if I see the guy stealing candy at the candy store and then I see him go into the auto parts store, yeah, I might figure maybe he's picking up some free shit there too. And then they definitely had to screw something up in all these more elaborate setups. So again, misparaphrase me completely. I've never said they had to. I'm just saying that you make yourself credible or incredible. If you have to lie about the simplest experiment, isn't that sort of evidence that your theory sucks? I mean, if you have to lie to make your theory sound rational, doesn't that mean that it's probably in big trouble and that you're probably going to keep fucking around with fudge? The very fact that they did Huygens led to dark matter, in my opinion. If they didn't get away with Huygens, then they wouldn't have gotten away with dark matter. I'm tempted to just say the exact same thing back. If you screw something this simple up, okay, where did I screw it up? So your claim is I screwed something up as that fundamental in this fucking argument. You're saying Maxwell's equations apply to things moving half the speed of light. And I say you're a fucking liar. With lights, then you definitely have to screw more things up later on. Well, you're a fucking liar. You haven't demonstrated I made a single error in what I have said. Not a single error have you demonstrated. Go ahead, show me the Maxwell equation that demonstrates that if I move a magnet half the speed of light, that it produces just as strong magnetism all along that entire path. Alright, one of Gary's chief and valid complaints is that mainstream physics leave the door open to things like, well, no, okay, I don't need to bother all that. Fair enough. There are actually some pretty bad YouTube videos that abuse... No, again, see, you keep saying these are just YouTube videos. Yes, I will debunk these talking heads. I mean, it is fun. I'm going to do a Degrassi Tyson video I think somebody linked to somewhere in this shit. Because it sounds funny. I might have already done it, though. It might be an old one. But I'm pointing out physics lectures, for fuck's sake, okay? I've played Feynman clips, Lewin clips, the guy at Yale clips. These are professors at fucking the most expensive universities in the fucking country. So don't keep playing this game that this is about asshole talking heads on TV talking shit. This is how physics is being taught, you fuckhead. Alright, here's the thing though. You don't actually need to reject modern physics.